Hello once again, and this is Stan in the What It Takes, the WIT studio. More WIT, What It Takes, WIT, Stan Hustad. One of the things that I've tried to do is help people understand the value of always learning things. In fact, right now I have just finished up producing in our studio a class called God Wants You to Be an Entrepreneur, or at least to think and act like one. And the course is not necessarily meant to be just information, but what a course should be, something that would challenge your situation and your position with new information. And then you are left always at choice. I'm always helping people saying is, now you decide, you choose. Well, the thing that I discovered about people who really live an entrepreneurial life is they are continually looking for opportunities to learn things. And sometimes they're even kind of buggy about it, They read a lot. Those who are attention deficit, and there are a lot of them, they'll listen to things. They'll go to audio books. They'll find ways where they can hear it if they can't read well. They're always asking people questions. They are incredibly curious. Those are oftentimes the qualities they are learning. One of the things I encourage people to do is just have some fun to look for learning in new situations. And the other day, my wife Karen suggested we go and see a film. She said it sounds really good, and one of the friends, her friends liked it, and so we went and saw the film called The Intern, which stars Robert DeNiro. And we went, and it was a wonderful film. I mean, it was just good. There was nothing not good about it. Now, it's not great drama. It's just that it was goodness. There was a sweetness to it. And what it was a story about a man who's retired. He's been a very, 40-some years working the business world. Then his wife dies, and he's kind of bored with life, He goes through all the things that he's learned and all the things he tries to do to keep busy, but, it's not working out for him. Now, I oftentimes tell people is we were not made to retire. We were not made to stop making a contribution. And you know what? We can't play golf or go bowling forever. And after a while, card games just get kind of old and boring. So what do? We have to find something that'll help us keep contributing. Well, he starts to look for things to do. And he happens to see, and takes place in Brooklyn, he sees on one of these poster boards in the community boards, a job for senior interns. Oh, senior intern. And so he goes and finds out that he applies for it. Now, very interesting, which I love because I teach this, the people have to do it, is you didn't send in a resume to actually apply for the internship. You had to produce, like what I'm doing, you had to produce a video. I'm telling people right now is throw away your resume and don't try an interview. What you have to do is you have to demonstrate how good you are, you have to audition, and that was part of the deal. Well, it turns out that he found somebody, a younger person, to help him produce a video, and he sent it in, and he was selected to be a senior intern. And it turns out that the shop that he is part of is a young woman has started a startup company, women's fashions on the internet. So it is grown. There's almost 250 people working there now in what was a former warehouse where he used to work in Brooklyn. And it's all these brilliant young kids, for him, who are doing internet stuff. And they know all of that stuff. And it's a typical startup internet place full of young people. And there he is, and he gets the job, and he shows up, of course, in a coat and tie, because that's what you do, and looks for opportunities. He wants to be of service. Well, it was very interesting to see some of the things you could learn from that film. And let me just share a few with you. These are obvious to some of you, but I thought it was good to be reminded of that. First of all, the young people discovered that you can't teach experience. I mean, That's right. Yogi Berra said that. The late, great Yogi Berra. You can't teach him experience, no matter how bright and bold and beautiful you are, and how smart you are, and how clever you are, and how good you are with the machines. Experience counts. And they're just things you know because you've been there, done that, seen that, survived that. And he begins to have some neat experiences helping young people. There's this young man who starts to talk to him, and he says, he finally says, he's talking about the fact that he really messed up with his girlfriend. He did something really stupid, and she avoids him now. She won't talk to him. And he said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, I'd send her text messages, and I sent her a really nice email, and then I sent a long apologetic email. And the guy says, well, have you ever thought about just going and talking to her? The guy says, oh, you think that would work? He said, well, nothing else worked. Why don't you give it a try? There we go. There were neat things like that happening. It turns out he's looking for things to do, and in the middle of this big office, they have kind of a returns room, and it's when you've seen every it's got this place where all the junk is, and the returns are, and the things that we're going to do later. And everybody hates it, and the young, brilliant woman who runs the company and is the owner, she hates it. She hates the fact that place is there, and everyone says, someday we got to clean this mess up. And one day they come to work, and it's perfectly cleaned up. And of course, it was Walt the intern. Oh, yeah, well, it just needs to be done. Walt did it. Of course he did. Well, it turns out he continues to look for things to do, and he has a sense of a gentleman's courage. He notices that the driver for the young entrepreneurial owner, he looks out the window, and she has a driver in a car. It's there in New York, and he sees the guy's taking some tips out of the bottle. He's a little tipsy. Well, he goes right down to him and confronts him and says, hey, don't you do that. It's not your business. He said, it is too my business. He says, you tell the lady that you're not well today, and you're going to take the day off, and that I'll drive her. Well, she comes out, and he said, he said, if you don't tell her, I'll tell her. And so he said, I'm not feeling very good today, and I talked to Walt here, and he said he'd drive you today. And so he drives her. Well, the guy who was the driver never shows up again, so he lands up being the driver for her. And he's doing lots of things, as she has to go between being in meetings and being also a parent, and then also trying to make all of life work. And he just kind and calm. But one time she notices something that she doesn't like, and so she sends an email to her assistant and says, can you get him reassigned? I'm not so sure. And this is the key. He's too observant. Wow. Yeah. He notices things. Again, experience. Doesn't judge. He notices things. And she knows that he knows, and that he observes. And where other things slip by people and no one knows or cares, the intern notices. Well, he finds himself reassigned, and then all of a sudden she realizes just how wonderful it was to have him there, and how helpful it was to have somebody who's observant. And he finally finds his way back to work with her. Those were the kinds of things that happened. And then the young people start coming to him. And he continues to dress up. And it was interesting to see how influential he became to the young people. Now, he had no authority, but he had lots of power. Think about that. No power, but he had authority. No, he had no authority, but he had power. He did have the power of influence, of persuasion, of helping people change their behavior. It was interesting that one of his colleagues starts to, I kind of like dressing up, because he always did. And that begins to make some changes. And then, of course, I thought it was wonderful. Again, I'm so profoundly old school in this sense. It discovered that not only does he dress up every day, but he carries a handkerchief. And someone asked him why he carries a handkerchief. And he says, well, you never know. You might be in a situation where you need it, or particularly if a woman starts crying, you can always offer the handkerchief. Wow! Talk about old school. But finally, that old school gentlemanliness begins to affect the character and quality of the young hotshot startup company. And things happen. People start to care for one another. People start to change, and things of goodness begin to happen because of the intern who just simply serves and cares and observes and doesn't judge, just helps out and tries to be useful to people. And more and more, I've decided that what we really need is exactly what he was. He was an old-fashioned gentleman. You know, St. Paul once said, and the translation goes something like this, "Let your gentleness be known to all." Now, I need some work on that. I'm not normally a gentle spirit, but I'm really working hard on that, because that's vital quality. I can dress like a gentleman, and I guess I do most of the time, and perhaps I can act like one, but do I truly have a gentle spirit? Am I truly, as somebody once said, the nicest thing you can say about another man, particularly of my faith and persuasion, is he was a Christian gentleman. Well, you can put any other kind of adjective you want on that, but I thought that was important, and Walt was a gentleman. And what the world may need now, what it really takes, is more of those kinds of people like the intern, who are gentle men and gentle ladies. Just some thoughts from going to the movie on a Saturday. Some things that might help us understand that if we want to make a difference in the world, these are some of the things of what it takes. All the best and blessings to you. We'll see you again on What It Takes.